Okay, welcome in. I'm behind on a few of these videos, so let's see if I can get caught up, at least football-wise. We'll see about the hockey. So I'm just going to review last week's action, or this past weekend's action from the National Football League, as we had the first round of the playoffs come to an end. So Saturday we had 2 games, Sunday there was 3 games, and 1 game last night, which would have been Monday. So the first game, if I can get this thing to scroll properly, there we go. We had the Houston Texans taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. This was the first meeting between these two franchises in the postseason, at least. Chargers had a 6-3 lead heading into this game. That's now been down to 6-4. As you can see, the Texans would win by 20 points. The one thing that I took away from this game was at one point it was 23-12. The Chargers just scored a touchdown, and then they went to go kick the extra point. That got blocked, and I don't know how new this rule is, but I know it's been around for quite some time, that if you block an extra point attempt, and you run the ball back the other way, that's basically like a safety. You're given 2 points and the ball back right away. I mean, they would have got the ball back either way because they just scored. But so that made it 25-12 instead of making it 23-13, which would have been at that point. I'm sure it would have been a closer matchup at that point. The Texans would go on to score another touchdown. Then they had a 20-point lead at that point, and they did not look back. So for the second year in a row, they would win their opening wildcard round. Unfortunately, they have their hands tied because due to other teams that have won, they are now on to face the defending Super Bowl champions, or back-to-back Super Bowl champions. So it'll be a tough matchup to say the least once the divisional matchup gets underway. So spoiler alert for the rest of the AFC. The next one took place in Baltimore as we had the Ravens, who played host to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me take a look and see. I have some notes here written down, so let's see if I can follow this. So this was the 63rd time these two teams met. As for the postseason, this was the 5th time that they met. Heading into this matchup, the Steelers did have a 3-1 advantage. With that being said, Roethlisberger won 2 of those games, and obviously Joe Flacco won the last game for the Ravens when they went into Pittsburgh and won in a wild card round, if I'm not mistaken, back in 2014, 2015. This time the Ravens would be victorious. So they are now cut into that playoff series matchup 3-2 at this point. You can see they won 28-14, so they have advanced to the second round of the playoffs, or the divisional matchup, I should say. Sunday, I should have also mentioned that I did pick Houston and I did pick Baltimore. So Saturday I started off okay. We'll see how I did with the rest of my picks. So I do have it on my phone, which is connected to the TV. It's just very slow at the moment. So there we go. Now we got Denver and Buffalo in the picture. I did pick Buffalo in this one. I know Denver is my team, but I knew that heading into Buffalo, this was not going to be an easy matchup. Yes, they won last year, but if I'm going to be frank, this year's Buffalo Bills team is just slightly different than the team they had last year. So, yes, Denver did have a very good defense overall, but it seemed like at the end of the season, especially the last 4 games or so, they weren't quite themselves. Whether Riley Moss was in or not, didn't really seem to make much of a difference. They gave up almost 30 points a game, like I said, the last month of their season. So their dominant defense definitely did take a bit of a hit when it came to that aspect. And as for the offense, it can be hot and cold. Like they obviously put up over 30 points against the second and third string players with the Chiefs in that Week 18 meaningless game for the Chiefs at least. So that really wasn't the sign of like good things to come. Had they beaten like Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and all the other guys that started, then I'd say, well, if we can beat the Chiefs starters, we obviously have a chance against Buffalo. But yeah, no, they didn't have a chance in hell against the Bills. Granted, I was excited after the first drive. They were up 7-0. I'm like, this could be a shootout. This could be back and forth. Maybe be like a 24-20 game or 27-21 game, something like that. A one-scored game. I did think it was going to be less than 7 points. But the Bills, man, once they got their mojo going, there was no stopping them. There's a reason why they're as dominant as they are. And they're obviously moving on to the divisional matchup to take on the Ravens. So that'll be probably the game of the week or the weekend, if I want to be completely honest with you. So 3 picks in. I picked all 3 home teams, and I got all 3 correct. All right, now we got, if it shows on the screen. I should have also mentioned that with the Bills and the Broncos, that was their second time meeting in the postseason. The first time the Bills won, so obviously they now have a 2-0 lead in the playoff series with the Broncos. And overall, while my screen is still loading, because I do have the next game on my phone, it's just taking forever for the screen to roll up. So that was the 43rd time that the Broncos and Bills played, and the Bills now lead the series 24-17 and 1. All right, there we go. So the second game on Sunday took place in Philadelphia as the Eagles played host to the Green Bay Packers. For this matchup, I do have it written down here somewhere. This was the 48th time that these two teams met. In the playoffs, they met 3 times. Philly led the series 3-1. They would go on to get the victory over the Packers. So now they have a 3-1 lead in that series. And overall, the Packers lead the series 28-20. So despite the fact that Philly has a 3-1 edge in the playoffs, they're actually losing in the overall series 28-20. Am I surprised by the result? Not at all, but I'll give Green Bay credit. They did put up a fight. They only lost by 12 points, which is essentially just 2 scores or 2 touchdowns. So had there not been any picks, I think Love threw like 3 interceptions, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe if he had 2 of those picks back, Green Bay could have pulled off an upset. And if there was one 7th seed that had a chance to take out a number 2 seed, it would have been the Packers. As I previously mentioned, the Broncos, after they got their opening touchdown, they had no real answer after that. So the Eagles are moving on to the second round, and because they are the number 2 seed, they will be hosting whomever they play. Now, the last game from Sunday night took place in Tampa Bay. Still waiting on the screen to load. Like my phone, I already got the score. I'm ready to roll, but this thing for some reason is slightly delayed. So I guess as I'm waiting for the screen to scroll up on the TV, I will talk about this matchup. Oh, and I just disconnected. What? Come on now. Come on. Connect. Anyways, while this is attempting to connect, I really don't want to start this video over again. So while this is starting to connect again, I'll just take a look at this. So this was the 27th meeting between the Buccaneers and the Washington Commanders, or football team, or Redskins, whatever you want to call them. The series was tied 13-13, so obviously the winner of this matchup would have the go-ahead series lead, and this was their 4th time meeting in the playoffs. If I'm not mistaken, I think, Tampa Bay had a 2-1 edge when it came to the playoff series. It's now tied. Big surprise. There we go. Got it back on the screen. Because Washington would go on to win 23-20. It was quite the dramatic game. And for the Buccaneers, obviously that late fumble, whether it was Mayfield's fault or the receiver, whoever it was, they bumped into each other. The ball obviously hit the ground. Washington recovered it. And then they go on to kick a last-second field goal. But it wasn't all that easy if you're a Commanders fan, because it hit the post and then it went in. So it easily could have hit the post, went back out, and this game easily could have gone to overtime. But leave it to the Commanders to have a late dramatic thing, whatever it is, when it comes to the postseason. So because Washington won this matchup, their series is now tied at 2 respectively between these two teams. And funny thing is, the last time that Washington won a playoff game was against Tampa Bay in the 2005-2006 season in a wild card matchup. So pretty crazy how they've met in 3 wild card matchups in their playoff history. All right, now I think I'm on to the last game. Yes, I am. If I can scroll up, hopefully I don't disconnect again. I literally am just showing the score, and then that's it. So we have the Los Angeles Rams. They played host to the Minnesota Vikings. I say they played host, but because of the wildfires in Los Angeles, and my heart goes out to everybody who's was affected by that. I seen there was like X amount of deaths, and obviously people are now homeless because they've lost their homes due to these wildfires. So I just want to take a little time just to let them know I'm thinking about you guys, and really hope that things can turn around now. It's not going to be a blink of an eye and a snap of a finger and everything will be hunky dory again. You literally lost your home and all your belongings. So I'm for sure it's a very trial time. I can't say I'm empathize, or I can't say I can understand or whatever. I've never been in that situation. So I feel terrible. I couldn't imagine losing what I have, and it can happen to anybody at any time. So it's very unfortunate that that is the case. With that being said, this game did get relocated to Arizona. So I'm not sure if fans had to travel from Los Angeles to Arizona, or Minnesota fans had to travel from Los Angeles to Arizona, how that whole thing worked out, but it eventually did. And if you got a chance to watch the game or even watch the highlights, you can see there were some Vikings fans and Rams fans in Arizona's home field. So when it comes to this matchup, this is the 49th time these two teams met. When it comes to the playoffs, this was the 8th time that the Rams and the Vikings have met respectively. Obviously, this time the Rams got the better of the Minnesota Vikings, 27-9. They are moving on to the second round of the playoffs to take on the Philadelphia Eagles in the divisional matchup. So I predicted Minnesota, Tampa Bay to win in the NFC. So I got 4 out of the 6 picks correct. So at least I finished above 500. And then we still got the divisional round, the championship game, and the Super Bowl as well. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more games in the NFL season. And then we will be done with the 2024-25 campaign. I still am in awe of how quick time really flies by. It amazes me. It really does. Like, I'm scared to blink. It'll probably be tomorrow by the time I open up my eyelids again. But anyway, yeah, that takes care of this recap for the wildcard matchup in the National Football League. As always, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative. I do plan on doing videos as often as I can. I'm very much aware I'm behind on quite a few things, so I'm hoping that I can get back into the consistency of uploading. Alrighty, as always, take care.